recycling papers that Richard's telling me before?
No.
Say Beetlejuice. I know.
3 times.
We say 3 more times.
I sent the bids to all of you in your email today. The bids from the bid opening today for the shelves.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
I'm ready when nobody paid attention.
I'm ready. You ready?
I saw it.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, I'd like to call the April 22nd Town Board meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, either online or in person. Just quick announcement. So yesterday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. going all the way until tomorrow, we're doing smoke testing on Laurel Avenue by Park Place all the way to Main Street. Essentially, all that involves is blowing some harmless smoke into the sewer pipes to determine if there's any leaks. Really doesn't pose any health issues to anybody, and it will be done by tomorrow, close of business. All right, do we have any correspondence tonight?
No, I do not.
No? All right, then I would open it up to public comment. Does anybody here from the public like to speak?
No.
Anyone online? No? No? Okay, if that's the case, then I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment, and we'll move on to our agenda items. Number 1, motion to approve warrant number 03825 dated 3/28/25 in the amount of $247,195.80.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 2, motion to approve warrant number 03B25 dated 3/28/25 in the amount of $271,643.28.
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 3, motion to approve warrant number 0425 dated 4/9/25 in the amount of $426,175.95.
Motion.
I have a motion,
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 4, motion to approve warrant number 04A25 dated 4/9/25 in the amount of $251,866.53.
Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 5, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 2/26/25 in the amount of $291,269.53.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 6, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 3/12/25 in the amount of $303,231.31.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 7, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 3/26/25 in the amount of $279,621.61.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 8, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 4/9/25 in the amount of $301,302.93.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 9, motion to approve town board minutes dated 3/25/25.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 10, motion to approve town board minutes dated 4/1/25.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 11, motion to approve an 8% increase in salary for Heather Crum for title change of account clerk to account clerk typist effective 3/31/25.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. It is with great regret that the next motion, that I have to read off the next motion. Motion to accept the retirement from Arnold Seletsky from Parks Department effective 4/4/25.
Definitely motion.
Second.
I have a quick motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Arnold, I've been here for 3.5 years as a councilwoman. That park has not looked as good as you have made it look. It looks phenomenal.
Oh, it's way more than parks.
And let me tell you, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. It made us look good. Thank you.
I would just like to say too that when I came here, 3 years ago, I felt so welcome because of you. And you had a team of people come over and redo my office, and y'all did such a great job. And everybody always comments when they come in and how beautiful it looks. It's not just the parks, it's everything. Everywhere you look, your team has their input on it. Thank you so much for being so welcoming to everybody that comes here as a new person and everything that you do here.
Thank you, Arnold.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, more than the parks, the rail trails, general garbage, I mean, repairs, you have your hands everywhere.
Food. Thank you.
Yes, food.
Yeah.
Which opens on Friday. Great.
They don't meet it, Arnold, they're happy to see you
I
guys.
think so.
And also the trips, it means a lot to people.
Trips.
Yeah, yeah, you're amazing.
Yep.
Couple food.
So moving on, it is with great enjoyment and honor that there's a motion here. Number 13, motion to approve the reinstatement of Officer Colin Garofalo to the Fallsburg Police Department effective 4/9/25.
Motion.
I have a motion and a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. It's a state's loss, but our gain, so it's really nice to have him back. All right, number 14, motion to approve promotion of Maximilian Deutsch to D2B water operator with a pay increase to $28.98 an hour effective 4/7/25. I have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 15, motion to approve employment of Hayden Vale as plant attendant in the sewer department with a salary of $51,147.28 effective 4/7/25.
Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 16, motion to approve seasonal employment of the following laborers in the Parks Department. Philip Kalanick, Edwards McCombs, and John Stanton IV with an hourly pay of $16.25 effective 4/7/25.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 17, motion to approve seasonal employment of the following laborers in the Parks Department. Morgan Mitterwager, Jonathan Rose, and Charles Stanton with an hourly pay of $16.25 effective 4/14/25.
Motion.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 18, so this has to do with the Never Sink Crossing project. This is gonna be paid as part of a larger SAM grant. It's pretty self-explanatory. So motion to award bid to Gary Myers in the amount of $18,100 to complete task 2, which is install silt fencing and grubbing and stumping work on the Never Sink Bridge portion of the Sullivan O&W Rail Trail to be paid through SAM grant number 24591. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Same thing, just different task. Motion to award bid to Gary Myers in the amount of $26,646.36 to complete task number 3, which is removal of abutment and piers on the Never Sink Bridge portion of the Sullivan O&W Rail Trail to be paid through SAM Grant 24591.
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 20, Resolution 35 of 2025, authorizing the adoption of by the Town Board of the Town of Fallsburg, local law number 3, of 2025, a local law to amend the Town of Fallsburg road service and towing ordinance. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
One abstain, right?
I have 3 approvals and one
I'm here,
abstain.
I'm abstaining.
All right, 4-0-1. Number 21, resolution number 40 of 2025. So this is to install, and I guess the chief could speak about this a little bit more. This is to install license plate readers in 2 locations in the town. One is by 52 in Hillside, the other one is on 42 in Todd Road. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, the one out in the end of town.
Yeah, that's what the resolution said. Really is designed for law enforcement and
We have currently 4 of them up and working now. And if you've seen them, there's one on a pole by the Dollar General, they have a solar panel, and they're working very well.
okay. And what is the primary use of them? It's
Just
just
monitoring traffic, and then any, if there's a stolen vehicle coming through, we'll get an alert on our computer that something's coming through, we can have the guys check on it, or if we're looking for something in investigation, we can plug in a license plate or a type of vehicle.
Is it good for like, it's good for like Amber Alerts and that
sure,
stuff?
sure.
Wanted person.
We're gonna have it hooked up through the Crime Analysis Center, so we'll have access to it in Goshen. So it won't just be for our department, for all departments in the area.
So it's 52 in Hillside and Todd Road
Yeah, those are
and,
the 2 on the state.
42.
And
That
42.
they needed, the permission from, so some of them are on private property where permission was gathered for already. So there'll be 11 of them installed or 9?
It's either 11 or 12.
Yeah, I think it's 11.
This was all funded from that law enforcement technology grant.
All on a grant.
All right, so resolution number 40 of 2025, granting permission upon New York State DOT approval to the Town of Fallsburg Police Department agency to install license plate reader equipment within the geographical jurisdiction of the Town of Fallsburg and the state of New York.
Motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. So this one has to do with entering into an intermunicipal agreement with the county. Essentially we have bridge number 2 by Church Road. You know, we have water and sewer mains that are attached to the bridge that cross over, and the supports that hold them in place are rusting, they need to be replaced. We don't have the ability to do that work, so we're entering into an agreement with the county so they can do the work for us and we reimburse them for it. So number 22, resolution 41 of 2025, authorizing intermunicipal agreement with Sullivan County Church Road County Bridge number 2, water and sewer main support replacement.
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a
Second.
second? I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next one has to do with some compliance work that we have to do at the landfill, where we're looking to contract with Sterling Environmental Engineering to provide professional services in support of the post-closure monitoring that we're required to do. So number 23, resolution 42 of 2025, authorizing the Town of Fallsburg to retain Sterling Environmental Engineering PC as consultant to provide professional services in support of Town of Fallsburg 2025 post-closure monitoring. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. I'm gonna let, so 24, I'm gonna let Richard explain.
This is a resolution to approve formation of a water transportation corp for Zimmerman Estates. This is an existing project which has been built, an extension was granted in the past, and there's both water and sewer there, and we initially were requested to form the Sewer Works Corporation because it requires consent of the town, and then we more recently got a second request to form the Water Transportation Corporation.
And what is the purpose of the transportation?
It's to serve the project, it's required, because it's part of our system, and they are going to be entering this during the use inside the development. So they need it's a water company basically, that serves the project.
So essentially, we provide service up until the entrance of the property,
Correct.
but, you know, for all the common buildings and everything like that, essentially the HOA or this corporation will, you know, collect fees from the homeowners and everything.
And they have to pay the town for the water and sewer use.
Correct. Okay, thank you. All right, so number Number 24, Resolution 43 of 2025 approving Water Transportation Corporation for the Zimmerman Estates Project. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion?
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, so the next one has to do with, the Never Sink Crossing project. We have a number of grants, like, state, local, even some, private entities that are, contributing to it. But, the town has to essentially lay out the funds and then seek reimbursement afterwards. So part of what this resolution does is, basically authorizes a funding commitment which is required by DASNY. DASNY wants to know that we are, gonna commit to these funds, and then, and we'll seek reimbursement. We have to commit to the funds beforehand as a requirement to get the grant in the first place. So number 25, resolution number 44 of 2025, authorizing funding commitment required by DASNY in connection with the Never Sink Crossing project, state and municipalities, or SAM grant, project ID 23953. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, so next up, this has to do with the South Fallsburg sewer plant upgrade. Essentially, we're gonna need to pay Verizon to move the telephone lines, and in addition, also be able to put the lines back in and connect into the various new buildings. They require us to commit to a certain billing option, which would be either a flat rate or whatever the market rate is at the time. So, resolution number 45 of 2025, accepting the Verizon March 27, 2025 estimate and advance payment for relocation of the Verizon lines for the Fallsburg Consolidated Sewer District, including selection of billing option. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Well, you have
You
to,
have to pick the billing option.
you have to, I suppose you can make the motion, but you have to pick an option.
So the price currently, you have two options. You can, it's $188,000 in change, which is a set fee, or it could be whatever the cost is whenever they get around to doing it. There's the possibility that they could build it, they could do the work, and it could come in lower, and we commit to the flat rate. Or there's a possibility that, we don't commit to a flat rate, and, the price could end up being a lot more than $188,000.
So it's a gamble,
It's a gamble, right?
It's actually it's a statutory requirement that the utility has to give the option. So it a gamble, you either pay the flat fee and take the risk out of it, or you take your chances that it's gonna be lower, or take the risk that it's gonna be higher.
Are they just installing the same lines back in, like in other words, they're gonna be like fiber or data ready or high-speed internet? Or, is it just whatever they have, they're just disconnecting and reconnecting?
I don't know the scope. I assume, well, they need to connect the buildings, so whatever technology the buildings need, which is, fiber optic or whatever it is, or even a copper line, I don't know. But either way, for us to do the upgrade, they're gonna have to remove those lines, and then they'd have to put the lines back in. So it could be they could put the same lines back in, or they could upgrade the lines. But either way, they're gonna have to move the lines, put the lines back in, and then connect the new buildings whenever they're ready with that service.
My only question is, what are they connecting back? That's it.
Yeah, I would suggest we go with the flat rate, only because from an accounting perspective, and a budgeting perspective, you want to have that set number ahead of time, and you don't want any surprises, because if it takes them 2 to 3 years to get to it, with prevailing wage and everything, it could end up costing more than that.
I agree with you.
I agree, I'd still like to know what they're connecting back.
Anybody know?
No.
It would be, it's in the plans, these are plans that are part of the overall design that was prepared by Delaware. As far as the specifics, I don't know what the specifics are. But it's $187,000.
Right.
It's $187,000.
Right, can we at least know what we're spending the money on?
Almost
Almost paying for the money, that's all.
I would think whatever they're disconnecting, they're gonna hook the same thing up, because fiber optics
are no good unless the whole line is fiber optic.
Well, no,
And there's none after.
right, so I don't know.
Probably like
if
an
they're-
extension cord they're buying for $30 at the home.
Do you think they're gonna spend that much at Home Depot? No.
For that matter, since they're doing the work, they control the final price, so I'd rather lock in to a set price now than be at their.
No, I don't disagree with it, just wanna know
We'd like
what.
to know what they're doing.
That's it, like, I don't disagree with the logic, it's just, what are they connecting?
Good question.
I mean, you know, you buy expensive car,
If
you
you
put
want-
gas in it, no.
If you want, you know, a double explanation, it certainly doesn't, if we pass this week, next week, the following week, it's not gonna slow us down.
Can we get a,
Just,
yeah,
yeah, I'm being a nerd about it, I get it, but I'd like to know what we're paying for.
I'm not criticizing.
Alright, so then we'll table this for another time. Alright, number 27. So this has to do with the bridge replacement in Woodburn. Essentially, we entered into an agreement with DOT, New York State DOT, to provide an easement by the Woodburn parking lot, the municipal lot over there. All they're looking to do is extend the easement from 24 months, and then they're now thinking they're gonna need it for 26 months. So, you know, and they're offering us an extra $40 on top of the payment, the nominal payment that they gave us already.
It's $30.
$40, yeah. So, number 27, resolution number 46 of 2025, accepting additional payment and execution of supplemental agreement of adjustment and release of owner.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Nah.
Aye, motion passes. Alright, so now let's move on to our discussion items for tonight. First up is a continued discussion regarding the skate park.
Okay.
You take it?
Did everybody, take a look at the charts? I'm gonna assume no.
I said,
I did.
no, I
Really good.
did, in detail.
Okay. All right, any questions before I jump in, on it?
Yeah, quick thing, I went to Liberty, check guys out behind the houses, nobody's ever there. Once a blue moon, there's a kid there, I mean, it's pretty much dormant, it's dead. I mean, I've been through quite a few times, and I've been asking people, like, at first it was an novelty, everybody was there, now it's just like, stopped. So, I mean, it's gonna be the same thing here, I mean, what are we looking at?
Well, do they host events there and different things like that?
I couldn't tell you that.
You know, so, I mean, those are, and I agree with you, you know, like, that could be a potential thing. And this is kind of coming out of a unique time right now, that there is a, grant out there for municipal recreational spaces that pays up to $1 million. The town would have to kick in 10%, that grant is due on May 2nd at 4 p.m. So potentially and I would do this, to write the grant application through the consolidated portal and apply for it, so this way at least the initial funding for it and construction for it and the maintenance on the front end is not 100% absorbed by the town, it's 90% absorbed by the state. So, to me, that just kind of makes sense, that they go up to $1 million, and I think the skate park would probably be, with engineering and everything like that, maybe $500,000 to $600,000, depending on the size and location, but it's just something to think about, because it's a unique time that we're at. You know, but you do raise a really good point in terms
Yeah,
of
but
usage.
now you go by there, it's just beer cans and stuff, I mean, they use it for body spot, you off of some of the area, I mean, it's just, now it's just an eyesore when you drive by it.
But, you know, depending on the location, I think, you know, there was 2 locations we looked at, Morningside Park and, over behind, the building department. And so, both of those locations are traveled fairly frequently. Like, we have the basketball courts over in South Fallsburg that they're used regularly, throughout. So I can see it, and there was high interest, 93% interest based on the folks that took the survey. But I couldn't tell you, to your point, I couldn't tell you if 4 years from now.
So,
Yeah,
one
that's
thing,
the
one
case.
thing I could say about the survey is that, you know, only less than 60 people responded, which we both know is not a statistically significant sample. yeah, the majority of the people that did respond, you know, wanted it. But again, you know, out of a town of 15,000, you know, 50-something positive responses is, you know, you can't really extrapolate that to the entire population, because even if you use a bootstrapping method to increase the sample, you know, and at the risk of a higher rate of error, it's still not significant. I was expecting with the survey being open for 3+ months, that we'd get hundreds of responses, good or bad, you know, but we just,
Why would you expect that? We did 0 to advertise for it. Why would you expect that?
we have thousands of people that
No, we did
subscribe.
we did 0 to advertise. Why would you expect hundreds of people to do it? Like, that makes 0 sense.
Because it's been open for so long.
So just because you hang up a sign and you don't advertise and no one knows the sign is there, why would people do it, right? Like, did we talk about it every meeting? No. Did we advertise it? Did we post it consistently? No. We didn't do any of those things. And I'm not talking about, and hang on, I'm not gonna talk about the statistical, you know, average and the bell curve and how many people did it or didn't do it. We did what was asked, put out the survey, here are the results. It is what it is.
Right, but when you say that, you know, 90-something%
Of the people that took the survey.
took it wanted it, you know, that's obviously a motivated group, but a very small motivated group.
What is
You
your
know,
recommendation?
My recommendation is that we don't put that much emphasis on the survey because it's not a statistically significant survey. You know, to say that 96% of the people wanted it, you know, that sounds like 96% of the 15,000 residents that live here want it, which is absolutely, you know, something that would carry a tremendous amount of weight. But you know, there's a certain, you can't rely on a survey with such a small response rate. So I just want to put that out as like a disclaimer. You know, it's not to say that, you know, that's end all be all. I'm just saying it's not something that we can put too much emphasis on because the sample is so small. You know, that's one data point. We can discuss other pros and cons to it. I would like to hear from our parks directors that would be building it, managing it, maintaining it, fixing it, dealing with complaints, dealing with, you know, anything that arises from it, you know, because it's, in the end, it's gonna end up being their baby.
I could tell you
Can-
my personal
I'm
opinion.
sorry.
You understand now?
A little louder.
I know we forgot that there's actually a meeting going on.
I thought you left.
Yeah, actually.
My head's personal opinion, a skateboard park was more popular years ago. Tony Hawk is probably 70 with broken bones. I think the strength of those parks are long gone, or else you'd see it in every community. I don't see a large percentage of our community being interested in that. There's many more sports out there that might encompass more of the community, not just a select. I'm all for youth sports. I'd love to see Little League flourish again. We just started soccer, was part of the ASO group, it's very successful, so things are coming back. I just see a great liability, the wrong element possibly being there, which seems to happen in other places, from what I've heard. So I see more negatives than pros. We looked at it years ago when I was on the board. It was only 85,000 to do it then, and that was with material. But, you know, nobody was interested then. I know times are different, you know, it's ultimately up to the board, but those are just some of my thoughts on it.
Well, I'm also concerned about the potential buy-in, right? Because it's not the type of sport that you can just show up and start doing. you know, it does cost money to purchase the necessary equipment, the boards and the protective equipment, compared to a basketball, baseball, and a bat or a mitt. You know, I feel like it's gonna end up, you know, it's gonna end up not excluding folks, but, you know, we're not gonna get the level of interest that we hope that we're looking to get. You know, you have things like pickleball and various other, I wouldn't call them fads, but like, you know, new and emerging sports that people seem to be very excited about, and I can understand, you know, looking to get with the times. I just don't see a tremendous amount of following and enthusiasm for a skate park, coupled with the fact that, you know, there's a potential for higher insurance costs, or I'm not even worried about elements of people hanging out over there. I think, you know, kids come together to hang out, that's always a good thing in my opinion. It's more about, you know, the potential liability. I think it might even be more worthwhile to have an indoor skate park because of the maintenance issues. You know, once you get water and ice and everything, you get in cracks and they separate. And for me, it's, even if we get a grant to pay for it up front, we won't necessarily get a grant to maintain it and seal the cracks, you know, year in and year out. I think it's definitely worth being part of a larger conversation and see if maybe we could incorporate it into a, you know, like a sports stadium or whatever it is, like a sports complex where you can have it indoors and have certain areas, you know. I don't wanna, I think about like Chelsea Piers or something like that, you know, where it makes sense to have it as a part of a larger complex. But to have it outdoors, in the elements, and, you know, these are some of my concerns.
I've seen, it's very popular now, they have these artificial turf,
Yeah.
like multi-use fields where
Yeah,
you can play
that
soccer.
makes sense.
That would, I think, I don't have any idea what it would cost to construct something like that, but they're artificial turf, so there'd be no real maintenance. And they have them at Binghamton at the college, and there's kids, they'll play soccer, and then they'll play lacrosse, and then they play football.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and doing it indoors. I know that there was a thing that we looked at years ago with, kind of like Chelsea Piers with having the air-supported structure. And it was a ridiculous size, but you compare that down to like a 30 to 40,000 square foot facility and still be under that $1 million cap potentially. If we were looking to do something like that, have a multi-use facility that could include a smaller skate park and possibly pickleball, you know, something, you know, indoors, but then to your point, at least you're not worried about the elements and stuff like that and things going on. So I, for me, and again, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of if there is a grant opportunity that we could potentially have a conversation about to apply for, but having a multi-use facility where there is a smaller scale park or indoor walking track year round for folks, that sort of thing. How do you feel, Paula? A walking track for people, and, you know, soccer or whatever the case is, but at least people have something to do during the winter.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I have no idea, I would think that's a lot more than $1 million, but I would have no idea.
Well, we looked at something and it was like, back then it was 2022 and it was 100 and something, it was 150,000 square feet and that was $2 million.
That's it?
Yeah, for air supported structure. It was massive.
Air supported meaning what?
Like the dome, like they have in Chelsea Piers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
There's actually, what is air supported?
So basically they just shoot air into it and it just, the whole thing is supported by this system of like positive airflow.
So if there's a power outage, the dome?
The dome doesn't collapse, no. There's like a steel membrane on. We went and asked all these questions. Yeah, it's kind of something like that,
Yeah.
but it's, yeah.
How does it work with like 3 feet of snow and ice? And
It handles snow loads. The company that we talked to was based out of Chicago, Azon, something like that, right?
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, so they were based out of Chicago, and it was, if memory serves, it was like 20 $21 a square foot, if I remember the math right. I have to go back to it, but I think that would be the most cost-effective way to do it, and, they were willing to do it, and just pare it down, to something that makes sense.
That's a bit, 150,000 square feet is huge.
Yeah, you know, but I say 50,000 square feet or less. Yeah, driving range, you can do that, you could.
There are a lot of holes in that.
No, they actually had, the company that we looked at actually had driving range setups.
Really?
Where they can put it in, you can have vendor, you can have,
I'm not
food in here as
advocating for
well.
that. Not stress with the golf courses.
But it's something that I would, you know, personally look into, and just make sure that it made sense, and potentially apply for a grant and say, okay, if we did this, and then later on figure out, you know, have a third-party, project manager, grant manager, manage it because of the workload of the town. Just a thought.
So, I mean, so now we're actually looking to expand the scope of this discussion, and based on the feedback, it seems like, you know, there's a lot more interest into doing more. My concern is that we'd be scrambling to meet a May 2nd deadline, and we may not have a, you know, fully, you know, and then the other piece is that, you know, we'd have to commit to 10%, so we'd have $100,000 into $1 million grant, but there's a potential that this could cost $2 or $3 million, and then we'd have to talk about how do we commit to the other millions of dollars.
My recommendation would be, this is the budget, so we have to scale. Right, that would make the most sense.
I mean, even an outdoor multi-use field would be, if we could get it funded and only have to pay 10%, that's, would be a great thing for the town.
I think so, like,
Yes.
but again, you scale it based on the grant, like, we know this is the max, so we scale the project based on that. Because if you, like, 150,000 square foot thing doesn't make sense, but if we scale it back and make it fit into those parameters, then we know, okay, we're budgeting X, but we're looking to come in under.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. But we'd have to, well, I guess for the application, we have to know what it is we're applying for, right?
Yeah, it's the municipal,
No, not the name of the grant, I mean,
Well,
like,
we're gonna know.
the scope, what, you know, the parameters, the dimensions, you know, there's a summary that we have to give of what it is
Yeah,
we can do,
I'd write
as
the
well
summary.
as a estimated cost.
yeah, $1 million would be the estimated cost, and then we know that, and then basically the town is gonna commit 10%, as we should, and then we go from there. So the estimate would be based on a 20, at the time, I'm pretty confident it was like $21 a square foot. So let's adjust for inflation, we'll say $25 a square foot, and we make it work. And give ourselves $100,000 buffer in that process, maybe $100,000 to $200,000 buffer, because we have to do for engineering and, you know, management of the thing, of the project and stuff like that. So we definitely wanna have that leeway where we can manage the engineering, manage the project itself, through a third party, and get the project actually built. So we kind of work backwards.
Is there any requirement for us to build it, like, using prevailing wage? Can we, you know, 'cause I feel like with, oh, is that a yes?
Everything's
Yeah.
So I feel like.
Unless we take Mr. Coulter's property and build it on his, maybe.
We should do that.
It's
The problem with
No.
his property is the road is
He can't
horrible.
even-
So my concern there is that even $1 million may not be sufficient, for what is living. $1 million could be sufficient for the skate park itself, or skate park, you know, and maybe a little bit more than sufficient. But for the multi-use and the possibility of doing an indoor outlet, you know, I feel like we could expand beyond that.
Again, we scale back, right? So the size is going to be dependent on the cost, like, that's the bottom line. So if you have prevailing wage and you have administrative costs, that makes it smaller. So again, you know, you're right in what you're saying, but we have to think of it differently, and you scale back the size of the project to make it fit the numbers. so I think that's the way to go at it, because if we say we're gonna build, let's say 50,000 square foot, and that's what we're stuck on, it's never gonna work. We've gotta be flexible.
Right, or what if it, for $1 million, we only get like 1,000 square feet, you know?
I would hope not, but let's,
Just for real numbers, in 2022, I'm looking at a dome cost of potentially as low as $10 a square foot.
For government, for prevailing wage, or for?
No, but
private
this is
industry?
to buy the thing, to put the thing up. I'm assuming that's in it, but if there's a prevailing wage, it's gonna go way up. But they also, you have to investigate this, they have a limited lifespan, anywhere from 15 to 25 years. Constant positive air pressure,
Nate's
So
question,
I
how does
hate
it stay
to-
inflated?
I hate
it has
to be,
equipment,
So I hate to be under a deadline, because I know we have that March 2nd deadline coming up, but I feel like this requires a bit more research to determine what the scope is of the, you know, we want to right-size this project and not commit to more and have to be, and end up having to foot the bill later.
absolutely.
Now, what if you apply for it, it turns out to be much more than you expected, you don't have to use it, you just get the money back?
100%.
What are you doing with the
Doesn't
money?
hurt.
Right,
I'm just
right,
putting it out there.
like, 100%.
Well, I think-
Again,
So we can apply without really spending anything in grant writing or anything like that, and then wait to see if we actually get awarded.
And then wait to see how much it's gonna actually cost, and if it's gonna be too much, well, this isn't gonna work for us.
Right.
It's gonna die.
Arnold has
Yeah.
something to say.
What, you know, getting it is one thing, maintaining electric, you know, you're probably looking at some significant costs, staffing. You know, you need to throw that into the mix of what's that gonna cost you each year to operate. It's all right to get something, I don't know what you're gonna get for $1 million after all those costs of engineering and prevailing wage. And then where you gonna put it? Do you have a piece of land? Do you have to buy a piece of land? Is there a piece of land? You gotta consider those things.
Right.
we got a list.
Where you gonna put it in Hasbrook?
We could.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it can't hurt to apply, I just don't know about committing resources.
It'd be nice to have it walking
Jen, do you wanna
distance from,
apply for
like
this
in
grant
Fallsburg
for
somewhere.
us?
He
What
just
about
said
the kids
that
in
I'm
Mountain?
not applying
somebody else
for
would
any
apply
Okay.
for
What
it.
about the
Would
kids
you
in
wanna
Mountain?
apply for the grant?
I'm gonna, I literally said I would,
He just said he's not gonna
He just
require
said he
staffing,
would do it.
because we can't do it.
you guys, the staff can't do it, they're underwater, right? So I will do what needs to be done to apply it, and with the understanding that it's a scalable project, like the cap is $1 million, and everything else after that scales based on that if we're awarded.
Well, if you don't change my client's zone from business to Hamlet residence, you can put it in Woodburn, on my client's property, which is the next item on the agenda.
Yes,
Alright, so,
sorry.
so it sounds like there's no monetary commitment on the town, if you're willing to put in the time and effort, so.
Yes,
And my question was, like, you said like you'd have a grant person doing it. Are you the grant person?
no, like,
Yeah,
we
that's what I'm
have,
saying, because
right,
if you're
if
not gonna be
awarded,
here, yeah,
if
because
awarded,
it's the back end.
well, that's
of
what I said was, if awarded, you have to do an RFP, which we hopefully will find out this year, but you do an RFP for a third-party project manager / grant manager, or grant project manager, who would run that project, and so part of the budget for this would have to include that. So this way, it's not on the staff, it's really on this person who would report, person or company who would report to the board.
Well, that's probably 7%, but I guess.
You think that much? I figured max was 5, but we can go up to 10.
Okay.
I'm just,
We're hiring
I'm
a
the
project
maintenance.
manager for another project, it's $3.5 million. The project manager is $600,000.
We can put out,
What project is that?
it sounds like Nathan's looking for another job.
Maybe it's not looking for it.
Alright, so So if you wanna take the lead on this,
Yes.
and we'll follow,
100%.
we'll circle back to this at the next point, and maybe we hit the next milestone, and, hopefully
100%.
Huh?
we'll have some
I
news.
know.
Yeah, these domes are pretty cool.
Except
All right.
Nate's scared that they'll come in on him.
I still want, I agree with Nate though, I do wanna hire her about that, he was making 6 change.
Yeah, it's good.
That's a good one.
No, we're talking about it deflating on Nate.
Alright, so moving on.
Happen.
Number 2 for tonight, zone change for 23 Hasbrook Drive, SBL number 21-1-11, which is a business district looking to change zoning to a Hamlet residential district, presented by Ivan Calder.
Ivan Calder for 23 Hasbrook Drive. I have a map of the zone in question for each of you. The circled area in black bold type is the property in question. So, if those of you who are familiar with Woodburn, if you're heading towards Woodburn from Old Falls, this property is opposite the parking lot of the theater in Woodburn. It is a multi-zoned road, and the red is the business district. If you see the number 52, that, strangely enough, from what I'm told, and my eyes are not good enough, but I'm told that 52, where you see Route 52, right below the circled parcel, is a mixed-use district consisting of one house, and that is a large building that's opposite the parking lot. The dark yellow is Hamlet residential. The yellow is residential. When you make your left-hand turn into Hasbrook Drive, there is a really nice house on the left that's owned by my client, and then you have the parcel in question. This parcel is 4.2 acres. It is 370 feet long. It is level with the road, but from the back property goes uphill steeply. So only a small portion of the frontage can be used. I would say 250 feet, and 250 feet from the road, you have a very steep grade that's not buildable. Now, I don't know how this was designed, but this is probably one of the few business areas in the Woodburn Business District that is vacant. It is vacant land. And I've been in Woodburn, and this is, a real problem here is that this property, zoned for business purposes, is really useless to my client in that zone, because nobody is putting any new businesses in Woodburn other than existing structures that have already been built. I've been in Woodburn for 61 years, and to my knowledge, there's only one new commercial facility, and that's Greg Goldstein's Meisner Agency on Route 52.
They just built a grocery store.
Pardon?
They just
No,
built
no, yeah, but that was an existing
It was
building
all
before.
conditions.
I'm very careful. I mean, there are other new buildings. I mean, there's a new garage where there used to be a utility store that Meisner owned at one time.
Right, right.
And that's now a gas station.
Mhm.
And there have been other changes as well. But in 61 years, other than the Meisner building on 52, there's been no new construction in the business district. So this property is useless to my client. There's nothing that he can do with it. And not only, and he has a right to utilize his property, he pays taxes on it, and he's got a right to have property that can be utilized. And also, if you take a look at the map, it's stuck in the middle of a residential area and the Hamlet residential area. So it makes no sense for that to get extended to where it is. And it also makes no sense to have a business district opposite a Hamlet residential district. So if you take a look at the map, opposite this business district is a residential district, Hamlet residential. So why would you have a business district directly across the street from a Hamlet Residential District. So, once again, this really, I have no idea why it's this way, but once again, it's a zoning change that makes sense. It's not spot zoning because it'll be the same zone as the property across the street, no different from the property opposite it, and so it just makes no sense for this to be a business district. That's basically it. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, do you know the history of how this was zoned like this? Was
I
it
have-
part of the comprehensive planning committee?
I have no idea. In fact, one of the things.
Has it been this way for like 50 years? Was it just done in 2018 comprehensive plan?
I think this has been in existence as long as I can remember, because actually, if you go through Woodburn, there are no new residences in Woodburn at all, in the main business district. From the time you get into Woodburn by the two gas stations, by the intersection of Route 52 and 42, and you go all the way down to the fire department, I don't think there's one new residence along that entire strip, and there's not one new building along that entire strip as well. Why this was extended is a mystery to me, and it shouldn't have been there unless someone had grandiose ideas that Woodburn was gonna grow. And Woodburn in 61 years has not grown. You have stores that have been rebuilt, made nicer, but no new buildings other than the Meisner Agency. So right now, my client cannot use this property. He's got a house, a really nice house right next to it. Actually, when you make your left-hand turn onto Hasbrook Drive, a really nice house on the left, right before this property is a really nice home. It used to be an old building, and my client totally rebuilt it. In fact, the old building was considered by me as a law office at one time. So you have a beautiful home as you make your left-hand turn onto Hasbrook Drive. You have this vacant piece of land, and then when you go past the vacant piece of land, you have houses in a Hamlet residential area. So it makes no sense. This sticks out like a sore thumb, and it really should be consistent with the rest of the area. And in a business zone, my client can't do anything except put a business in there. And who's putting new businesses in?
What is he looking to build there? What is his,
I have no idea. The zoning is pretty good for construction though. I mean, it's got sewer and water, so you can put a house for every 12,500 square feet, but you can only use the frontage. Because once again, if you drive by that, take a look at that property, there's a steep hill in the back. And you go right up there. So, I have no idea what he wants to do. And I understand the public opposition to any growth, the public opposition to using more sewer and water. And I understand that a zoning change like this goes against the public sentiment. But once again, I think what's right is right, and my client should have the right to use his property for which he pays taxes in a way that makes sense. Right now, we can't use it, can't do anything with it.
I don't know legally if we could, but can we do a stipulation that they can only put a single-family home on that property?
Well, actually, with 4.2 acres, you can do more than that, really.
But let's say, you know, if you can't do anything with the property now, you know, in order to.
No, in the business
grant
district, you're not allowed to build a home. You
Right,
can't
but
build-
if we allow an HR to, the zoning change, can we put a stipulation that they only put a single-family home there?
Well, I would have to find out exactly what he wants to do with it.
this is,
He might want to develop it, even if he wants to develop it, it would be nice to have new homes in Woodburn. I can't remember, I was thinking about this,
good question.
I cannot remember, and maybe you can help me, of a new house that's been built in Woodburn, and a single-family home, that's not part of an orthodox development.
I don't know. Is his house currently in which zone?
His house is a business zone, however, it pre-existed zoning.
Uh,
And it was an old house, and he basically fixed the outside, fixed the inside of it. It's got a house with a gate. If you drive onto Hasbrook Drive, you take a look at it, there's a gate, and it's a really nice house. So it pre-existed zoning.
Is that on the same side as you or the other side?
He's over the bridge, he's not
It's
there.
Hasbrook Drive.
Oh, it's before the.
No, this is opposite, opposite the theater, so it's not on my road.
Right.
But once again, Well, you have other people who live here all their lives,
It is over.
and where is there a new house in Woodburn in an HR district? None that I can think of. And the only commercial building was Greg Olstein's on 52.
Yeah.
And I think Greg tells me, and I spoke to Greg about it because I wanted to pick his memory to see if he remembers any houses, that or businesses, new buildings that were built. And he tells me that there was an old building that had been demolished where his office is. So even that technically is a replacement. And there are new buildings. I mean, you got the post office, but that used to be the Armstrong House. And then you have a couple of other new buildings that replace other buildings, but nothing new in Woodburn. Same thing with South Fallsburg. If you think about South Fallsburg, who's adding new buildings and new commercial property in South Fallsburg? You have a couple of buildings that burnt down. Other than one building that's being replaced now at the corner, right down the road here, you have a number of vacant lots and nobody's building anything. Unfortunately, that's the way it is.
I think Mike had a good point though, because with our water and sewer worries, it would, you know, would help us consider making the change if we knew it was gonna be.
I could inquire further, but,
Yeah.
well, once
There's
again,
gonna be 10 houses
Yeah,
there.
as
We-
opposed to.
well, once again, we're not gonna be able to hook up until there's sufficient
Right.
water and sewer anyway. I mean, so that begs the point.
But we don't, the issues we really don't have, we're struggling to provide to people that are in the district to allow it to change a use and then have potentially, you know, too many homes built. We're just really, it's a policy that we kind of stopped doing, you know?
Yeah, it's tricky because with 4 acres, let's say with HR, you could do a half acre per house, you know, that's 8 additional units, or potentially more or less. It would really help us understand, it would really help us make a decision if we fully understood what the intention was. If it's just, if they're just looking to build a nice house for them and their family or something, you know, it's one home, you know, I'm sure that can
Make it easier.
make
for
it
us.
easier for us to make that decision. If they're looking to
Well,
develop it into
well,
a
Let's
15 units, you know.
Let's do a quick calculation. You can build, sewer and water, you can build a house on 12,500 square feet. That's roughly figure side yards, you're talking about 3 an acre. 3 houses per acre, roughly, 37,500 square feet. Figure only half the land is usable, and you can check what I'm saying by going down there. So you got 2 acres, so with 2 acres, let's say you got 2 acres of usable building area, then you can build 6 houses. That's what you're talking about. 6 houses roughly. Give some wastage. Once again, everything is flat and level. I don't think there's any water there. I don't think there's any rocks there. So figure you have 37,500 square feet. Figure an acre with additional lawns and driveways and everything else. You're talking about the potential of building 6 homes.
Okay, that doesn't sound so bad, but, and to the point that you mentioned earlier, that, you know, they won't be able to hook up until we have capacity.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like, so then maybe it's a little early to make that decision, because if it takes us 3, 4, 5 years, best case scenario, to upgrade the hoop plant in South
Pretty
Fallsburg,
much.
which is where this goes,
And also,
maybe it's be worth having that conversation then, because maybe by then we'll have an abundant amount of capacity, and then we might give it to you without conditions, and then you can build the 6 or 12 units.
I can also tell you, that when you start hiring engineers to draw up a subdivision and go before the planning board and get everything done, you're talking about 2 years probably to begin with. And so yes, and I invite any of you driving through Woodburn to make that left-hand turn. You'll see a nice house on the left, and then you'll see a little 370-foot vacant lot, and then you'll see other houses, and then you'll see how the topography goes uphill. So once again, I think 2 acres is probably a reasonable estimate, and that would be 6 homes.
If you can get us some more information as to what the
I will
intentions are,
do that. I will
would be
do that.
helpful.
All right, and thanks for your attention. I probably should have put this in the form of a letter, but I figured it was easy just to come down and discuss it with you, if I don't mess this place up.
We definitely appreciate you coming down.
All right, thanks. Take
Good
care.
night.
Alright, last item on our discussion tonight is Landau's Park presented by Steve Viviante. I don't see him here. Alright, so I guess that's gonna be pushed off for another time then. Alright, if that's the case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, go to executive session. I don't know if we have any business in executive.
Motion.
On what?
Employment, policies. No.
I think only personnel allows us to go into executive session, so. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye, motion passes. With that, we don't anticipate any additional business after executive session tonight. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and with that, we are adjourned.
That's yours, take them.
You gotta know about all of that.